Hello everyone, and welcome to the September 2018 update of the Power BI desktop. One quick note before we get started, we're trying something new this month, and there's actually going to be another PM, Sujata, who is helping me out with the video this month. So you're going to hear a new voice in some of the different sections of the video. Alright, let's get started. As always, of course, we have lots of good features for you this month, and we're going to start with the reporting features. First up is a new layout option for our scatter charts. We've heard a request for quite a while now that users wanted dot plot support in Power BI, and so we've finally added it to our scatter chart visual. We've lifted the restriction on the x-axis, and now you can put categorical fields such as dates and strings on the x-axis itself, and still of course get to have the measure on the y-axis and use all the other great features that the scatter chart already has. So let me show you this. So I have two dot plots on this report page right now, and you can see they kind of show off different capabilities that you automatically get because we built this on top of our scatter chart visual. So this one right here, it's using the date options in the x-axis. As you can see here, there's a year and month field in my x-axis, and I have sales in my y. And of course, with this, you can still use the great options like the sale size for my percent of grand total of my sales, and I can even use color saturations for my units. And I get a nice dot plot effect for my scatter chart. Same goes for this scatter chart on my bottom left here. It's very similar. I'm using, in this case, a text field for my axis, my class, economy, deluxe, and regular. And I'm using, in this case, instead of a color saturation, I'm using the legend to break it down by sale size. And so these are just scatter chart visuals. You can see it's just a normal scatter chart icon selected in the visualization pane. And nothing special you have to enable. Now you can just start dragging categorical fields into the x-axis. So make sure to try this out and let us know if there are any other features you need building out your scatter chart, your dot plot. Just let us know what else we should add next. Our next feature has been a very common request as well. We've heard quite a bit that people, they love Power BI, but they really sometimes just need to take a either single cell of their table or matrix or some small selection of the data and put it somewhere else, like just to move it into Excel real quick to munge around, or like if I'm just getting this one ID out of my table or matrix to put into Dynamics to search for something. Sometimes I just need to get that one little value out. And so for our table and matrix visual, we've added two new right-click options, one for copying a specific value and one for copying the selection you have in that table or matrix. So if I move over to this matrix, I'll now see whenever I'm in the right-click menu, I see this new copy option, and I have, as I said, copy value in selection. So copy value is just going to take that data point that I was right-clicking on specifically. And for this one, we wanted to give you the most specific value that we could get because, you're right-clicking on one specific point and saying, give me that. So what we're giving you is the unformatted version of that data point, so then you can paste it anywhere you want, like Excel, and get it to look the way you want, either make it match the format that exists in Power BI or, however you want it to look. So if I hit copy value and I move over to Excel and I just paste it in, you'll see that I'm getting the full value for my sales amount, not formatted currently as a currency, but of course Excel is really great and I can just, change up the formatting to be whatever I want it to be now that it's here. And if I switch back and I control click just a few points on my matrix, such as washer and dryer and fans, and right click and pick the copy selection option, what this is going to do is it's actually going to copy everything that visually looks highlighted right now in the matrix, and it's going to give me a table that has the same data. So I'm going to get the categories that are selected, both the sales amount and the units. So if I just hit copy selection, and move back to that same Excel file and paste it in, you'll see, like I said, you get a nice tabular view of all those fields that you selected. So I only picked home appliances, specifically washer and dryer and fans, and I got sales amount in units. And you'll see in this case, because you're grabbing a selection of data, we're giving you the formatted value for this option. And we also will give you the headers as well, so you know what fields that you were copying. And like I said, this works not only in the matrix, but also the table visual as well. So you'll be able to copy a specific value out of the table or whole rows of selection in our table visual as well. So we're really excited about this. We do have other plans for copying and pasting things as well for future releases. So make sure to give us feedback and let us know what you think of the current feature and where you want to see it go from here. Next on our list is the addition of several built-in report themes. So we've had theming for quite some time, and somewhat recently we've GA'd the ability to create a JSON file that defines your color palette you want to use, and also the majority of the visual properties across your report. But you've always had to either write your own JSON file or go out to our community and download a JSON file to use. So now we have right in our ribbon a set of different pre-built themes that you can pick from yourself if you're not a big fan of our default theme. So looking at this report, I temporarily put it back to the default theme just so you can remember what the default looks like. You can see in both this donut and this dot plot the colors you would expect from our normal theme. And you can see a whole list of other themes as well. And they each have a set of different colors as part of their palettes. And all you have to do is click on one, such as the colorblind safe one, and you'll see those colors automatically applied across your whole report. And this is a great option if you really want to kind of change up your report. You're not a big fan of that greenish color we have as our main color of our theme. Just a couple of clicks, you can now just change up your reports and pick a new theme. Of course, you can still import your own theme if you are willing to write your own JSON file. And we actually have now added a direct link to our themes gallery as well, which will take you out to community.powerbi.com to see what themes have been written in the community and download those to use yourself as well. I want to give a shout out to our intern Chelsea for this feature. This was an intern project that was done over the summer, and we're really excited that it was able to ship in the Power BI desktop. Our next feature is that we have made report page tooltips generally available. So you no longer have to go and turn on a preview switch in the Power BI desktop to start building out your report page tooltips and using them across your report. And as a small improvement to go along with making it generally available is that we are now supporting cards for showing up the report page tooltip. So for example, if these cards up here at the top, all I have to do is hover over them and I get my nice report page tooltip showing up, taking in that filter of whatever category I'm currently showing. In my case, I'm showing sales amount for specifically France because I've added a filter that is flowing through to my report page tooltip card. Because just like with table and matrix, we have built report page tooltips off of our base Power BI tooltips. You would also now be able to use the Power BI tooltip for cards as well, which you weren't able to previously as well. So, just because report page tooltips is GA doesn't mean we can't continue to add new features to it. So as you're using the feature, make sure to give us any feedback you have on if you want any more improvements for it. The last bullet point for reporting this month is some accessibility improvements. We have updated both our analytics and formatting pane to be much more accessible. If you have your focus within the formatting and analytics pane, so let me just switch over to show you. As you have things selected, you're able to easily just tab through each individual control. You'll see the hover effect on whatever control is currently in focus. You can use space or enter to turn things on and off. You can use the keyboard also to, open and close the different cards. So this is great for users who need to use a keyboard to navigate across their product. It also is just great for all of our other users because it really does improve productivity whenever you're, trying to set a bunch of options all at once, and you can just tab through them all and make your adjustments all with the keyboard without having to reach for a mouse and spend, all that time moving your mouse around. They also work much better with the screen reader as well, these panes. So if you're a user who's using a screen reader and a keyboard, you'll hear actually useful information as you are using a screen reader to format all of your Power BI reports. If you haven't noticed yet, Power BI has been doing a really big push to make building out and consuming Power BI reports consumable for everyone. Everyone matters, and we want to make sure that everyone can get access to data. So this is just another step in that direction. In the next few months, you're actually going to see a lot of progress being made. And I've been calling out some of the big features that are coming out, but we've been behind the scenes making a lot of other accessibility improvements as well. A lot of our dialogues have been getting revamped and adding keyboard and screen reader support. So by end of year, you should see a very, very accessible experience for both consuming reports but also being able to build them out in the Power BI desktop as well. Under analytics, we just have one feature, but it's definitely a big one. We're really excited that we can now announce a preview of our aggregations feature. Aggregations is a way to store only your summarized values in memory, and which would provide you the fastest access to the aggregated data without having to load your entire data set into Power BI. So you're able to leave a lot of your report in direct query, but have just that aggregated data actually imported into your model. So, and this is really important because, with some data sources like, Hadoop, you're going to have 1 trillion rows of data that can be 1/4 of a petabyte. It's huge. You don't want to import that all into in-memory. You can't, really. So by caching the values aggregated up at a daily level, for example, might reduce that to a much more manageable amount in memory that you can import and allow that to be really fast and snappy like import sources are, and then only whenever you need to move to that detailed row level, then we would switch into direct query and reach back to that data source. And by using the aggregations feature, all of this just happens seamlessly behind the scenes. Using this aggregations feature has many benefits, the most important one being that your query performance is going to be so much improved over large data sets because you're only having to go back to the direct query source for the detailed row level of information, and most of the time you're going to be able to use that aggregated imported data. Your query speeds are going to be boosted significantly. Also, by caching the data at this aggregated level, you're going to reduce your cache size and your refresh time as well. So your data refresh is going to be optimized for you. And you're going to be able to achieve a much more balanced architecture. Since Power BI is going to be handling the aggregated queries and memory cache, you're going to limit the queries sent to your data source through the direct query mode, which is going to help you stay within the concurrency limits. Additionally, the queries that do get sent through direct query are typically going to be at that point, because you're getting down to the detail level, more filtered transactional level queries, and data warehouses and big data systems typically handle those really well as well. So there's lots of great improvements that come with this aggregations feature. So now I'm going to just walk you through a very small demo of how to get that set up to start using. So this is my data model. It's pretty standard. I have my sales table, and then I have a bunch of other tables for like the dates, the categories, the subcategories, all of that. And my sales table, I have billions of rows in here, and I really don't want to have to put that in memory into Power BI. It just doesn't make sense. So all of these tables are currently set as direct query. But of course, I want it to be fast and snappy. So what I did was I created this AGS table. And this is at a more of course, a more aggregated level, I have my aggregations for my most important measures, my sales amount sum, my unit price sum, and the count for both of those as well. And then I have the categories that are going to be the most commonly used by the analyst building reports off of this model. So that's my order date, my customer key, and my product subcategory key. And that's it. That's this table. Because of that, it's going to be much smaller, more in the order of millions instead of billions of rows. And so I created this AGS table, and it's just a normal table in Power BI. It's not anything special. You didn't hit a button that said create AGS table. It's just a table. In my case, I imported it from the source. I created this AGS table at the source. But, you could also create it through M. Anywhere you want to get the table into your data model, you're able to do that. It's just a standard table. And the first step to mark this as an AGS table and really start, setting up the aggregations feature is you're going to want to mark this table as import. So you can do that off of the properties for that table. You're able to go into this, and I've already pre-did this step, but you got to pick the storage mode. By default, I connected to everything as direct query. But I picked the AGS table specifically as import. And when I did that, Power BI also converted all of the other tables that had relationships to it. So going back to my my relationship view, the tables that are directly connected to this AGS table, so my customer table, my date table, and my subcategory table, all of those, I have, once I marked the AGS table as import, Power BI automatically converted each of those other ones, like the product category, to dual mode. And what that means is, since it's connected to these tables are connected to both the AGS table, which is import, and also my sales table, which is direct query. These tables that are connected to both of them, we want them in dual mode. So depending on if I'm using my AGS table behind the scenes in the, to import the data and view it at the aggregation level, I want Power BI to treat all of these queries as import. And so I'm not going to be going back to my data source in direct query mode. And so these tables have to act like an import. But if I'm at the detailed level, I want them to, of course, work like a direct query. And so by being in dual mode, they can act kind of as both, depending on what queries I'm running at the time. And Power BI converted all those tables for me to dual mode as soon as I marked this table as import. Do be careful when you do that, though. Make sure you're saved another version of your file or something, just because, remember, once you mark a table as import, you can no longer move it back to direct query. So remember that before you, and we will warn you before you do that, but just remember, once it moves to import, you can no longer move it back to direct query within the same data model. The next step to finish setting up aggregations is to right-click on the table and pick the Manage Aggregations option. From here, you'll get a dialog that lets you tie all of the different columns of your aggregations table to what they relate to in the rest of your model. So, for example, my order date key, that's a group by type of summarization, and in my sales table, I want to link that to my order date key. Same with the customer key. I'm going to go to my sales table and link that to the customer key field. And for my product subcategory, I'm actually going to pull that from the product table and link that to the subcategory key. And then move on to my sales amount for sum. Link that to my sales column. And my unit price sum, link that over to my unit price, and there it is. And I'm just going to keep doing this. This one's a count. This one's also a count coming from the sales table. You can see this is pretty easy to set up. Maybe not the most exciting of a demo, but pretty easy. Just clicking some drop downs and picking the fields that you want to connect them to. Where did my sales amount go? And now that I'm done, I just hit apply all. And now that I'm done, aggregations is set up. Now whenever I'm using my sales table and I'm using those aggregations that come from my ags column. So if I'm using sum of sales by product subcategory, I'm using my unit price over my order dates. Those types of charts I'm using at the aggregated level, the same columns that I'm using in my ags table, I'm using those from my model. We will automatically reference the ags table behind the scenes for you and work as if we're in import mode. But as soon as you move beyond those fields that exist in your ags table, we'll start working in direct query mode and pulling back from the source those detailed data from the source. And so because of the aggregations feature the way it's set up, the consumers of this model don't even need to know it's there if you don't want them to. As the model creator, you could choose, like I did here, to hide the table and then make it so you can't see the hidden fields. Share this out to the ANAs who are building on top of this model, and they can just start using the fact internet sales table that I have here across their report and not have to even worry or think about the aggregations feature. They just need to know that their report's going to work a lot better now because they are, the aggregated data is working in import mode. So this is a great feature that we're previewing right now. It's going to vastly improve the performance and just the quality of your reports that are accessing direct query sources. One thing to remember is that while this feature is in preview, it is under the same restrictions we have for our composite models feature. Hopefully that was obvious to you because we were mixing direct query and import and dual tables, all these different modes of tables into one report. But it is, of course, built on top of composite models, and since you can't publish the preview of composite models yet to the Power BI service, you can also not publish using the ags feature to the Power BI service just yet. We are working on that. That is coming. But during this preview, part of the preview period, you're not going to be able to publish. It's still a really good feature to, start trying out and figuring out how once we get the feature working in the Power BI service as well very soon, how you're going to adjust your models. So during this preview period, start using it in the desktop, start getting your reports ready to adjust to this new feature. And also, of course, it's a preview feature, so let us know what you think and if there needs to be any updates or changes.
Now let's jump into our custom visual section. We have some awesome visuals releasing this month. The first on the list is the horizon chart. The horizon chart is basically a multi-panel area chart typically used to show changes in distributions over time. Let's take a look at a sample report. Looking at this sample report, we see how horizon charts allow us to visualize a dense amount of data while enabling quick insights at a glance. Let's take a closer look. In this example, we're looking at the number of people accessing a site over time, and we're looking at this distributed across various regions. You'll notice that the value of this chart is that it allows for really great precision without taking too much vertical space. Now let's look at the formatting options that we have for this type of custom visual. Here in the formatting options, you'll see a section called Horizon Scheme. Let's click on that. You'll see the first option here is overlap. Overlap is essentially the number of overlapping colors you want in your chart. Right now it's set to 3, but you also have options at a minimum of 1 color and then at a maximum of 7 colors. You can also choose to change the color scheme. Right now it's in blues, but you have tons of options for other colors and even color combinations. The next custom visual on our list is Text Enhancer by MAQ Software. Let's take a look at the sample report so you can see what text enhancing capabilities are included in this custom visual. Before using text editor, we see that the following visual created here required two objects to create. First, it required a text box for the prefix of question, and then it required a multi-row card to switch between the different questions. So you'll notice that there's another limitation here is that when I switch to longer text, it gets cut off because the multi-row card is not dynamic. Whereas after using Text Enhancer, I just need one visual and I can add the prefix here and then also have my box dynamically change as the text grows. So adding prefixes and suffixes is one of the main capabilities of Text Enhancer, along with the dynamic sizing of the box. But in addition to that, you can also customize in other ways. For example, you can change the font styles of your text. You can change the alignment, whether that be vertical or horizontal, the direction which your text flows, adding shadows or a highlighter effect. You can even change the skewness of your text and the perspective. If you want to make any of these changes, all you need to do is click on the formatting pane and then see these settings in the text settings. Our next custom visual on the list is Advanced Card, which is super similar to the existing Power BI card, except you get even more customization options for formatting. Now let's take a look at the sample report. On the left, you'll see the Advanced Card visual, and then on the right, you'll see the normal Power BI default card. At their default setting, they look about the same, except one difference is with the Advanced Card, you unlock way more formatting settings. You'll see that in the formatting settings, you can add a prefix or suffix to the card. You can change the border styling. You can even change how the corners are formatted. Additionally, you can add a tooltip to the card itself. Furthermore, you can add conditional formatting, which can be set right in the formatting pane. So if you click formatting pane, you'll see that there's an option here called conditions. Here's where you can set the number of conditions you want, where based on a given input, you can output a specific foreground color and background color. The final custom visual in this section is multi-KPI visual. This visual enables you the ability to track multiple key performance indicators in a single controlled visual. Now let's take a look at the sample report. In this sample multi-KPI visual, you'll notice that the main KPI here is active customers, but simultaneously I'm also tracking three other KPIs: average price, gross revenue, and satisfaction. The beauty of this type of visual is that I'm able to interact with one KPI and see how the other KPIs are changing over time. Now let me show you how easy it is to create these. So the first step that's required is you need to add in a date and a value. So since my main KPI is active customers, I'll add that in first. Then I can start adding a secondary or even more values to track. The multi-KPI visual has a ton of different custom formatting options. From being able to change the date format, number format, and display units, you also have almost full access to change the look and feel of the KPI card itself. For example, in this card, I've noticed that there's changes in the main KPI here. In order to make those changes, you need to go to the formatting pane and click main chart, and that's where you see all the options. So you could change the type from area to line. You can change the main color to something else, and then the alternative color to another color of your choice. Now that concludes our custom visual section. One final note is that in case you missed the announcement, we are deprecating the old API for custom visuals. So that means if you're a report author, you will need to update any visuals that got a deprecation warning. Now let's jump into our next section, which is data connectivity. In the data connectivity section, we have two updates for you guys. One is in preview mode, which is the PDF file connector. And we've heard a lot from the community asking about it, so now it's your chance to go try it out. So in order to try out this feature, you'll need to enable it in the Options dialog of Desktop. After you've enabled this preview feature and restart Power BI Desktop, the PDF file connector will appear under the file category in the Get Data dialog. Once you've selected this, you'll be able to select the path to the PDF file and then specify which tables you'd like to extract. So if either you want one table or you can select from multiple tables. We look forward to your feedback on this feature and stay tuned for more enhancements. Our last update in the data connectivity section is specific to the SAP BW connector. We are now enabling the ability to select additional measure properties when using this connector in import mode. So within the Navigator dialog, you can now select one or multiple measure properties. And stay tuned because we also plan to support this capability in SAP BW Direct Query mode as well.
Under data preparation, we have two features. The first of which is, in my opinion, one of the best and greatest updates we've had to M and the Advanced Query Editor in quite a while. We now have a preview of M IntelliSense. So just like we have IntelliSense when you're editing a DAX measure, you can go into the Advanced Editor and have a similar IntelliSense feeling to it. So if I switch over to my report and I open the Query Editor, and then I go into the Advanced Editor, since I have the preview feature switch on, you'll see that everything is now colored very nicely. You can see my my columns are in red, the types are in blue. When I click on something, it highlighted all the other similarities. If I go down here, let's just delete this real quick. I can start typing and I get autocomplete suggestions for what I should add. You get prompts for different things, like different parameters for stuff. You get all of the really nice IntelliSense that you expect whenever you're writing something in some language. It's a preview, so you have to go turn it on in the Options dialog, but once you do, you'll see all this nice IntelliSense here, and we will eventually bring that into the formula bar editor and the ability to add columns as well. But for now, Advanced Editor, go try out the feature. If you do anything in M, this is going to, I think, change your life. I'm very excited about this update. The last feature is an update to our Add Column from Examples feature. You know, we released this feature quite a while ago where you could just type in examples of how you want your new column to look, and then based off of your old columns, we'll figure out whatever transformations are needed to get it there and create that column for you. And ever since then, almost every month, we have a new update for this feature, new transformations we support for this feature. And this month, that is text padding. So now if you want to use text padding, which is, for example, if you wanted to update a column to say that I want this a numeric column that ranges from like 1 to 100, I want to update it so there's zeros in front so that every value in my column has 3 digits. So if it was a single digit number before 1, it will now read 001. If it was a double digit like 50, it would read 050, and 100 would not get any zeros because it's already 3 digits. That's text padding, and you can now do that through the Add Column from Examples feature. And of course, you can mix that with all of the other great other examples we have for support in the Add Column from Examples feature, so you can mix and match all in one new column. So that's it for this month. Let us know in the comments what you think of all these great features and what you'd like to see us add next. Thank you.